Hey, this is Andy Brown. In this video, we're going to take a look at AWS Amplify. So AWS Amplify is a service I know extremely well because I have evaluated it so many times, and it just never lives up to expectations. It's this idea of having this developer experience on a opinionated framework with the backend to AWS, and it's kind of like something that should compete with Firebase or fully managed platforms like that. But over the years, they just keep adding stuff because whatever they're building just doesn't work. And so they go, okay, we'll build something else on top of it, something else on top of it. And that's why we have the AWS Amplify CLI, the AWS Amplify SDK, which are the base stuff, the hosting platform, the studio, the UI, and now we have Gen 2. And so they just keep trying to make it work by piling stuff on top of it. So I'm not that excited to show you Amplify. I just want you to get a sense of what it does, but I don't want to go too deep because it's a waste of our time, other than just making sure we conceptually understand it. So you can just watch this video and get an idea of what it does. And then they have Gen 2 out, so when that comes out at a preview, it's just going to wipe away all the old stuff or slowly replace the old stuff. So again, don't want to overinvest there. What I'm going to do is open up the AWS Examples website. And what we'll do is go over to the AWS Amplify's website, so AWS Amplify, and they have their own website for some weird reason. So we have this here, and if we go to build with Amplify here, nope, that's not it, because they have a separate website. If we go like AWS Amplify GitHub, okay, and again, keep trying to find it. I'm not sure why I'm having such a hard time finding the site today. Still can't find it. Here we go. Here's the docs. And now it's purple. The docs are purple. And so now they're promoting Gen 2, and I've never used Gen 2, so I have no idea how this one works. I definitely know how the old one works. So will they convince me with this one? I don't know. But it looks like they are putting that forward, even though it's still in preview. So I guess we'll just stick with Gen 2 here and see how best we can utilize this. So we have a few different options here. I've never used Vite. I don't even know what Vite is. I'm getting tired of all these JS changes. Local development server written by Evan. Okay, Evan, sounds great. The creator of Vue.js. All right. And if we go down below here, we can go ahead and generate out a new one. So I'm opening up AWS examples here, and I'm going to make an isolate folder, and we'll just stumble through this and figure this out the best we can. Okay, so we're getting too many folders here. I'm just going to just type in Amplify, and I'm going to make a new folder in here called Gen 2 so we don't get mixed up here. And we'll go to Amplify, and we'll do Gen 2. And again, not familiar with Gen 2 whatsoever. The old one I am, but we'll go ahead and generate out a new app and just follow the instructions and see how far we can get and see if we learn anything as we do this. So we'll generate this out. Do you want to install these packages? Sure, yeah. It says done now. So now we'll cd into our new directory. And we'll do an npm install. So npm install. And then we'll do npm run dev to start the server. I've used a lot of web frameworks over the years, so I'm sure we'll stumble through it. I actually like using Mithril, which nobody is interested in anymore, but I still think it's a great framework to get things running quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and do npm run dev to start up the development server. I'm assuming that's what it's doing. Starting at port 5137, we'll make it public. I'm going to go to my ports here. I'm going to open this up. Again, if you're not using Gitpod, you might find this a little bit harder. Here we have our app, and we have a count is 0. So I guess we click, and that increments. If I refresh it, I'm assuming it doesn't remember what it is, which is totally fine. We'll go over and take a look at what code we have. Our index.html is going to mount this TypeScript file. So apparently we're working with TypeScript here. We'll go to our source. We have our app TSX, and it is using React. So nothing too crazy under the hood here. All right, and so we'll go back over to here. And so we have install this. And so now there's the idea of creating our backend. So our backend is going to utilize the SDK. And the idea is that it's going to communicate apps in the back here. So let's go ahead and see what this new experience is like. Again, I'm still not convinced, but I'm going to go to another tab here. I'm going to make sure I cd into our Amplify directory Gen 2 React app. And I'm going to just paste that in here and see what happens. And so it's going to say create Amplify beta version 2. We'll say yes. I believe that it uses SDK, or sorry, CDK underneath, which again I don't like to provision resources because it makes a bunch of messy CloudFormation templates. But where should we create your project? I'm going to hit enter here, and it's going to go ahead and create that. Now, should I create that in the same directory? I don't know because they don't tell you here. I'm going to assume that it is because we follow along. It tells us just to hit enter. And then it wants us to start the local server. I thought we did that already up here. Did we not? No, I thought we did. But anyway, we'll go back here. And now it's installing the dev dependencies. What it's installing, I have no idea. So we'll just hold off here and see what happens. And apparently it is done. So that is complete. We'll go down here and start the local dev server. We already did that, but we'll go back to their tab. I'm going to stop it and start it again to see if that makes any kind of difference. And it's open on that port, so that is totally fine. We'll scroll on down. Starts Amplify sandboxes. So for a backend, you can start a cloud sandbox environment. Amplify gives you a developer a personal cloud sandbox that provides an isolated development space to rapidly build and test. Do not use sandboxes in production, which totally makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and go back over to here, and we will go ahead and create ourselves our sandbox and see what happens. And it's saying legacy environment variable region mapping to this one. That's totally fine. Identifier is Gitpod, so apparently knows it's using Gitpod. Specify a different sandbox identifier. Use the identifier. So, all right, it did something. Not exactly sure what. Build your backend. So here it says we'll now add data and auth capability. So this is where we start using the SDK. So far we've been using the CLI to some degree. Doesn't really feel like we have been because usually you have that amplify command. So maybe not so much as of yet. But anyway, here we can go update our application. So under amplify data resources.txt, we'll go into here and we have data and then we have resources TS. We have our backend defined here. And so somewhere in here, it's going to tell us to copy some code. So, and update it to add done field and type Boolean. So we're looking at our schema here. And I guess we want to add these two. So can I even easily copy and paste this? Not really. No, I can't. So I'm going to take this off screen so I can just type it in manually. See how much I like using this framework. And we'll type in Boolean, and then we'll go ahead and make a parentheses here, and then we'll do priority, priority, a enum, and then we'll do square, and we'll have low, and we'll have medium, and we'll have high. And I think the reason like Amplify has just failed is that they just haven't had good leadership or vision around this product, or maybe just people keep moving on from this and we get new team members, at least on the, I'm not saying on the developer advocate side, but I mean like on the actual people that build it, because it's just been such a mess. So we've added this to our schema. I don't know what the schema is for. Maybe it's defining it for GraphQL or our database, because I don't know anything about Gen 2, but we'll scroll back down here or go back to this. I'll just bring this back over to here. And it says, once you've saved the changes, then model, they will be deployed in seconds in your cloud box environment. How would it do that? I never ran any command for it to do that, but it says that it would automatically do it. So the to-do model is defined with authorization rules. Okay, so remove public access by deleting the allow public access read. Again, they're not really explaining anything. They're just telling us to change things, which I don't really like that much. But somewhere in here, we have this public here. So we'll go back over here and take a look. And so it's saying allow owner. Okay. And we'll go back over to here. And then it says update the default authorization pool to user mode. So we'll do that next, I guess. And so basically what we're doing is we're setting up authentication, I guess, as they said earlier. Default authentication mode, because the user pool is from Cognito, so that kind of makes sense. And then we want to add our authentication. This is so different from Gen 1. So in our auth resource TS, We need to add this somewhere here in our define auth. Oh, we have define data. We don't have a define auth block, so I'm guessing we have to add that. So open the, oh, it's under here, okay. And so now we're over here, and now it's asking us to add this for the verification. I'll just copy this. I don't know if it copies all of it. It does. I don't like how it changes everything. Let's go ahead and take a look here. I just want to grab this line. You know, it'd be nice if they just made it so you could just copy the lines that you want from the code, but no. So the data auth resource files are imported into the backend. It should show up there. So now we gotta go to the backend TS. And we'll go over to here and we have auth and data. So it's just showing that those are being loaded there, auth and data. Okay. And now it wants us to use the build UI. So now we're using, so we've used the SDK. I don't think we've used the CLI yet, but now we're using the UI specifically for Amplify to build components out. So I just want to show you here, like Amplify UI. And I really don't like the Amplify UI because at least the components when I last used it were very limited and not really great. So I just don't use it. But anyway, we'll go ahead and copy this. We'll go back over to here. We'll paste this in and hit enter, and we will go and install the Gen UI. Or Amplify UI, sorry. And as that's installing, we need to go to our main TSX. So we'll go ahead and do that. And we'll add some components. So what it wants to do is add something and go ahead and just, I think it said main TX, right? It wasn't app, was it? No, main TX. And we'll paste that in. It's still installing down below. And so I just want to take a look at what it wants. So we are adding in Amplify. So now we're using the SDK, even more so on the client side here. And then we want to configure it. I don't know if we want this to happen before the DOM, but that's where I would put it, is before the DOM. And so the idea is that we are going to load this Amplify configuration JSON and then configure Amplify, and basically just configuring it to work with external services with AWS. So we'll go down below here, update the app.tx with the following code for import. So we'll go over to our app.tsx. And it's just asking us to greatly simplify this. So I'm going to go all the way down to the ground here. I'm going to paste this in here. And then we'll just see what we want to bring over. And I'll just split this across. Okay, so I want to bring up these. So we are importing authentication from, or the authentication components from the Amplify UI. And we're bringing over its styling, which is fine. And then they have this hello here, which I don't really need to do. So I'm just going to leave that alone. And then we're going to replace our export to wrap with the authenticator, okay? So that is now implemented, so that is fine. It has an issue with our app here. It's what it told me to put in here, so I'm not sure what is wrong. But I think the thing is that this file would get generated out by Amplify, and maybe it just has yet to do so. So it's expecting this configuration file, but we haven't made one yet. So we're going to ignore that error for now, and we'll just continue on down below. So here it says, view a list of to-dos. Okay, and it wants us to make to-dos, terminate the dev server. All right, connect a branch to Amplify console. So right now we need to solve this issue here. So I'm going to go back over to here and see if it's finished. So without that Amplify configuration JSON, it's not going to know what to do. So it's kind of weird that they don't have that in the instructions here. And I'm going to go back up to here. And so it doesn't say anywhere. It doesn't say anywhere what we have to do do that. So I'm going to go over to here. Nope. Manual install. Nope. So there is some way to generate that file, and I believe that we use the CLI for that. And I don't even think we have the CLI installed. So I'm going to go copy and paste. How to generate Amplify. So the CLI will generate this out with a similar constructor. Locally, this file is created when using the Amplify sandbox command. Okay, where is it? Because we ran it and we don't have that anywhere here. So I'll go ahead and run it again, I guess. So just type in clear, and this is freezing up on me, so I'm going to give this a refresh. And we will wait here just a moment. And we'll go down below, all the way down to the ground. I'm going to go to this tab here. I'm going to try to run the sandbox again and see what happens. It says legacy environment will not be watched. That's fine. Amplify sandbox, identifier git pod, specify a different sandbox, free and valid pointer. So this is where I kind of quit, because if I cannot follow the instructions, and this is supposed to be like super easy for developers, I really don't recommend utilizing this. I don't recommend Gen 1. I don't recommend Gen 2. I don't recommend Amplify hosting. I don't recommend their UI. I don't recommend their studio. And it's just a waste of time for us to learn this service. What AWS wants you to know is that they have AWS Amplify hosting. So if we go over to Amplify hosting, this is a way for you to deploy a static website. And if you didn't know anything about AWS, then maybe you might want to use it. But I'm going to tell you that it's also not worth it, because it's so easy to configure a CloudFront template, an S3 bucket, use it with Terraform, use it with CloudFormation, use it with CDK. But the idea here is that you would go through this interface and you'd say, I have a repo in GitHub, and then it would just set everything up for you. But I found that there are specific limitations with using the Amplify hosting, because they're hiding those components from you. You can't see the CloudFront distribution. You can't see the bucket. You can't see the stuff. And there is an additional cost on top of it. So to me, it's totally not worth it. All you're getting is some like CI/CD pipeline when you push. So I'm just going to stop it here and just say it's not worth your time. We will learn about other things like AppSync, because that is a service that has a lot of synergies with this, but could be learned in isolate and is an actual good service. But yeah, again, Amplify, I just don't recommend it. I don't even want to keep this code around here because it's total junk. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so we'll leave it at that, and I'll see you in the next one, and we'll say that we satisfied our curiosity with Amplify.